So hello teachers, I will be giving some instruction on our action research proposal. So this is just a proposal for our as a requirement for our SMEA. So this is how our proposal would look like. So it's very simple. So all we have to do is to supply all the blank here on our sentences. So the first one is the introduction and rationale. We have the problem identification. So we have to identify the exact problem. Like for in math, if we just say numeracy, so there are a lot of aspects in numeracy. Will it be multiplication? Is it simple addition? Or is it fraction? So we have to identify one because we cannot answer every problem, or we cannot make solution or one solution for a lot of problems. So we have to specify the most problematic one in our learning area. So for example, just like that, like in fraction. Okay, so because what? What have you observed in your class? Why did we say that fraction or answering fraction? What is it? The addition of fraction is a problem. Second one, in order to prove my concern or issues, I needed to gather information or data on. So, what are the basis of you identifying it as a problem? Is it coming from the feedback from other math teachers or other teachers who are concerned? Or will it be coming from the test scores of the students? So I know that we don't just do one quiz, but we do multiple quizzes. And what have we observed in that particular class, that particular skill of a student, or a student lang jud, because he or she, we see it as having really that learning difficulty. Next, from my experience in using different tools and techniques, I found out that the most important, urgent, and most doable and relevant problem or issue that I need to focus on is blank. So it's almost the same with the first question. So you have to just repeatedly answer what is in number one. So like for example, addition in fraction. Tama ko? Yeah, adding fractions. So for example, that is what you have to focus on. So this is an example. This is in English. It's in 2018, so it's not relevant anymore. So yeah, and so parang sa number three, it's just the same answers one and two, but shorter. Yeah, shorter, more direct. Like I figure out that the most essential, urgent, most relevant problem that I need to focus on is how to improve the students' spelling skills. So based on the following pieces of evidence, such as the row scores in the conducted spelling bee and essay, some of these students have shown their difficulty in spelling words. So we have to have basis on why we identified this as really the most urgent problem that we need to focus. Okay, so number four, so it's a viable solution. So all you have to do is to give, it could be two or three solutions that you think would solve the problem. So like for example, in spelling, because I'm not familiar with math. So like for example, in spelling, you could have like word bingo, or you can have like hangman, or you can do peer tutoring. So those are viable solutions. So it's plural, so it's not just one. So in number five, you will really be able, you have to be able to really identify among these three solutions what is the best one that you think, the most possible one that you think you would implement in your class as an intervention program. So in this one, in my action research, it's not action research, but it's just a proposal on the training. So I use the hangman or bitay in Bisaya. So that's the activity. A gamification. So yan. So gawin siyang marag fun activity. The spelling activity would be fun. So using the hangman. So that's the most viable solution. So after that one, we have the research question and hypothesis or assumption. So still, you can use the words given here. The problem of this action research is stated as follows. So you have to provide a description of the identified problem. How did the researcher identify the problem? So we already answered that one on the first part. So all you have to do is to restate it again. Oh, yeah, to restate it. Describe the persons or students who are affected and the possible causes of the problem. So we describe the person. Is he really having low scores in most of the tests? So what are the possible causes? So is it, if we cannot say that it's a learning um, deficit, no? or like disability pala. So like for example, is it because of mobile games, or is it because the student have no time to study because he or she has to work? And then what are the goals for improvement? So here's an example. It's very simple. The problem of this action research is stated below. How can the hangman enhance students' spelling skills? So we really have to implement this one so we can answer. We will be able to answer the problem. So the effectivity of the activity or the intervention program that you want to apply. The problem, the identified problem is the greatest concern of the teacher. So it's your concern, not the concern of others. Okay, mo man imong nakitaan sa imuhang klase. Because if this remains neglected, the students will surely have difficulty in facilitating effective written communication and might remain a problem as they move to the next level. So it's even this one is kulang, no? So you really have to describe why it's a problem. So you can repeat the answers in number 2 and 3, like it is a recurring problem because the learners misspell the sight words or a 5-letter word. So stuff like that. Next, my tentative answer to the problem is the use of hangman as motivation in teaching literature as means of improving their spelling skills. Or it could simply be my tentative answer to the problem is that the hangman is effective in improving their spelling skills. Next, we have the literature review. So we all know what is a literature review, hopefully. So these are related studies concerning the problem or concerning the solution, or it could be both. So di man siya training, but this is just a simple proposal. So we can still use 2 to 5 literature. You can just look for how to cite based on APA citation, 6th edition or 7th edition. So you can use that one as a basis on how we will cite our literature. Next, we'll do our conceptual framework and research question or RQ. This one is, I will repeat, my RQ is effectivity of the hangman, but here this is from our previous training. So I will still use this one. The RQ of mom is, this is not mine, this is from the trainer. How can I make my students boost their interest in my science class? So her concern is the interest, but of course mine is for the spelling, so I will use that one on my conceptual framework and my. So this is how our conceptual framework would look like. So we have a dependent variable. So we have the spelling scale. So a dependent variable, this is like the effect or its value depends on the changes in the independent variables. It's the one being affected by the independent variable. So we have the independent variable, that is the intervention. So always the intervention, that is the hangman activity. You put figure 1 because this is the first figure, and you write conceptual framework. So this is an example of, again, a conceptual framework. Next, this research design, you can just use this one. You can paraphrase it, but this is the only research design that we will use, that is action research. It's not a full-blown research, and in this one, we have to specify this is a single case. Okay, so single case, so ibig sabihin, one student. So you can, yes, we can do action research with just one student. Within subject design with repeated measures. Hence, establishment of baseline data will be done at least 5 times until a stable data pattern is observed. So, we have to have a stable data pattern kay basig kato lang to sa low score notes pagkaugma, okay na dayang score. So, we really have to make sure that this is an intervention program for the students with learning difficulties, not just because he or she is having a bad day on that day mo nang gamay ang score. Likewise, post-test data will also be gathered several times. You can specify how many times you would want after the implementation of the strategy. You can just use these words if we cannot find or cannot restate this statement. Next, of course, the sampling would be purposive. So as you can see, it's not a qualitative, it's not a quantitative, it's an action research, which is not really that big or bugat. So it's a purposive sampling, of course, because we'll be picking or choosing the learner based, of course, on the different criteria that we have, or the grade siya based good on the criteria, no? But really, we have to pick them or choose them because they are the ones we find having problems on the learning area or specific aspect in our subject. In this regard, only the learner described as a research subject will be involved. The learner was selected to qualify because of the characteristics specified in the problem rational. However, the intervention will have to apply to all learners. So as we all know, we have to apply this one to everyone, even if we only pick isa lang yun sa ilahan, no? Because of course, to avoid discrimination, and it is part of our ethical consideration that the learners will not feel as if he or she is the problem in the class, but the focus of this action research will only be for the learner identified who have a problem on getting into the zeal of learning. So you can just use these words or restate these words. Next, the proposed intervention. In this part, all we have to do is to provide the pictures, to provide the instructions on the intervention program. So in this one, this is a positive sticker approach. So sticker, no mo lang na ang gigamit ni ma'am to give stickers. And then, um, explain a little of this and post the stickers or post the activity or unsay itsura sa activity. So doon yon. Purpose and significance of the study, balik-balik lang sa no. The action research is conducted mainly to what? Of course, to solve the particular problem in your learning area. This will benefit the following. Of course, this will benefit the learner who is having the learning difficulty. It will also benefit the teacher because it could be followed by others. It could be used as well if you find that this intervention program could be useful in other learning areas. So you could state that in that part. Next, sources of data or instrumentation. So and this one will not do the paragraph form. This is like a timeline. So we have the variables or factors. Pwede rin na siya katong hangman activity or unsa tayong mga intervention. What to gather. It could be the test scores of the learners. What tools to use. It could be quizzes. Next, when to gather. That's the exact time. The time. Like, will it be in September 2002? Will it be in October 2002? Yan. And then remarks, di pa ta makabutang og remarks because we have not applied it yet. Next would be the ethical consideration. So, ano ni siya ma'am? Pwede ni siya copy-paste. In this action research, I will make sure that the intervention program will not cause any harm to anybody in the classroom. Harm, meaning physically, emotionally, and mentally. Though informed consent will not be secured at the outset. See, so we don't need an informed consent here because we are teachers and we need to give intervention. But again, this is not a full blown, so it's okay for us to not have informed consent. The data and information gathered will be treated with utmost confidentiality. Actually we can do the informed consent because kung dili mausab ang atong RPMS, will we still be able to use this in lieu of our ILMP, or of course it is considered ethical to actually inform the parents or guardians of the intervention even if it's part of our activity. Pwede mo ganito ni siya integrate lang sa klase and not really call it like a remedial or something, but to really integrate it in our usual class. So mo na nga in this part kay ma'am wala siya na siya nag-inform kasi part gyud siya sa ilang class. Next is the data analysis. Data gathered will be treated using appropriate descriptive statistics and shall be presented both in textual, tabular, and graphical form. In here, as far as I remember, you can just show the scores of the learners like a graph, like is it increasing? But if we are having problems with the statistics, I guess we can call or we can ask for help from Sir Romeo, like kung pang dinagko na gud siya. But this is just an action research, so you can just show the increasing score, the decreasing score, or unsa man, what trend Ano ba yung trend ng score ng learners? Moreover, interview and observation data will be analyzed using thematic content analysis. So very heavy, no? So what is being observed? Like you can say they're having fun, or were they distracted in the activity? So yan. So kita ra jud teacher ang maka-answer ana because we are the ones applying the intervention. And lastly, we have the reference. So what you have cited in the RRL or whatever part in your action research, it will be put in the reference. So yan. So just use the APA sixth edition. So